Channel to everyone who's new here, and of course to those of you who are back again, great to have you here. Bitcoin is currently trading at 116,800 US dollar. In this video we are going to talk about Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP and Solana. And before we talk about Ethereum, I'm also going to talk about the Bitcoin dominance and the USDT dominance. So before we start, I just wanted to say that yesterday around 6 p.m. my time, I wanted to get a nap because the day before I traded a lot, also during the night, and I was very tired. So I wanted to try to take a nap, but the nap continued getting longer and longer. So basically I slept very long yesterday, and that's why I couldn't do an update. Anyway, I'm here now, and the analysis from the previous day were still ongoing. So we have said here, once we broke here the green trend line to the upside, it looks like that we are going to retest it and continuing higher prices, 115,555 US dollar. So I can take this one out from the chart, so we get a clean view. Afterwards, we got here the breakout, and this was very positive. Was it tradable? With my setup? Actually, yes, but I didn't trade it Bitcoin because we will talk about that. The Bitcoin dominance dropped a lot, so the altcoins made far more gains. Anyway, we don't always have to wait for a retest, especially if it's not going to be a horizontal support. So this is a downwards trend line. To retest it, we have to drop over the time far lower. What we can also do is, and I will also show you that with ONDO as well, we can also draw here is support, horizontal support, and we can use this as entry, but we still have to keep in mind that we can always retest the lower part right here again. So our stop loss would be a bit lower, so we give the trade a bit more space. So I will show you that with ONDO, how I did it, how I did my long trade there. So for ONDO, for example, we had our breakout over this price level here. We retested it for 2 hours. So basically what I have done is I have looked for horizontal support, and I found the 92.6 cents very interesting. We also had here a fair value gap. So what I did is I entered the trade right here, so close to the 92.6 cents. But instead of taking my stop loss down here, because of the fair value gap, I did it a bit lower. So I give the trade a bit more space, and it developed to a good one. So back to Bitcoin. We worked off the first target of the inverted head and shoulders formatation, which we broke to the upside once we broke the 115,500 US dollars to the upside. The first target was the 117,425 US dollar, and you can already see it that we were pretty close to it, and we got our first sign of a sell-off. So basically it looks good. Target got hit, even though it is not always tradable, not a big deal. Also, what I also want to say is measuring targets, measuring chart patterns, finding them, looking for breakouts, and so on and so on. That's not even the difficult part in trading. The difficult part is getting an entry. An entry where the price is not going to move into your stop loss or in huge losses. Because that's the most difficult part in trading, to be honest. Getting the first entry, because afterwards, like we can always say, okay, this here was the breakout, this was the retest. Why can we say it? Yeah, because we went afterwards like this. But what if we don't have this here? What if we are from the time right here? Do I wait for an entry down below here? The price moves a bit up and we think, oh, maybe we are going to sell off again, and then I can enter here. Then you wouldn't be in a trade, for example, not into this push here. So it's always getting like What if I get into the trade right now after the candle close? Yeah, well, if I have my stop loss right here, I would get stopped out. That is the most difficult part because there are emotions involved. We don't have emotions while we are analyzing the chart, finding chart patterns, finding targets, measuring them, and try to connect it with fair value gaps, support, and resistance. We don't have emotions there. But once we put our own money into the game, there are emotions, and then the FOMO kicks or the fear of losing kicks. And then we do some weird stuff. So basically, that's the most important, the most difficult, and the most important part of trading, finding our entry. So I will take out the lower scenario from the chart because we have said once the $112,000 breaks to the downside, then we can expect lower prices. We still have the bearish chart pattern. We still have it. It is this big rising wedge in orange. We didn't invalidate it because for invalidating it, we need a breakout over 130,000 US dollar. So we can still get new all-time highs, and we can still be in the bearish chart pattern, which afterwards breaks to the downside. So it doesn't mean that we are bearish. It means we can still get new all-time highs, but once this chart pattern breaks to the downside, then it's not going to look positive. And the breakout is not $112,000 anymore. It went up. Now it's 113,216 US dollar. If that breaks to the downside, then I would be very careful for Bitcoin. So what I expect is, since we are getting into our weekend, I can imagine that we are going to get a small correction over the time, because if we look into the 1 hour chart, we were overheated, overbought. We already got a correction into the RSI. The price is not showing me a huge sell-off, so I can still imagine that we are going to get sideways within the RSI to cool it down. And while we are cooling it down, it might be possible that we are going to form, for example, a bull flag. So keep in mind that over the weekend, and now let's jump into the 50 minutes chart, because on the 50 minutes chart for now, it looks like that we have here an head and shoulders formatation, which is a bearish chart pattern. But this chart pattern is not there to short. To be honest, this is just a small one. We are still bullish. It's just going to show me a possible pullback. And the pullback can look like, since we have fair value gaps, so if we break it here to the downside, which is the price mark of 116,000 US dollar, then I think we can fill some fair value gaps. Target is going to be 114,700 US dollar. And while we get down to 114,500 US dollars, somewhere here, to fill the fair value gaps, then I want to see a bullish chart pattern developing. So something which I have drew here just over the weekend, that we should slowly get into those fair value gaps and then find for a falling wedge, bull flag. And if that breaks to the upside next week, then it's positive and we can enter some long positions. So before we talk about Ethereum, I want to talk about the Bitcoin dominance. So we had some chart patterns, bearish ones. And the bearish chart pattern on the Bitcoin dominance means that the altcoins are going to outperform Bitcoin. We have identified a head and shoulders formatation, breakout, retest, follow through. Here was the target. And you can see it that once we get into the target of the length of one shoulder, we got a price reaction. So there we went sideways. I can take this one out of the chart. We still have the maximum extension, which is the length of the whole head. We put it here to the breakout point. We are very close to it. So let me also delete this one from the chart because it worked. So if we now go into the 1 hour chart, then you can also see that this here might have been a falling wedge. Sorry, a rising wedge. And this rising wedge also broke to the downside. I think the target is going to be 59.71%. There, I don't think it's on the 4 hour chart, maybe on the daily chart. So on the daily chart, we have a trend line with 2 touch points down below here. and one touch point here. This is the least sharpest trend line, which is still working in my opinion. Like, we can still have other trend lines like this one. Sorry, this is the most sharpest trend line at the moment on the chart, which didn't break to the downside yet. So basically, once we break the 59.71% to the downside, then we are going to drop to other trend lines which are less sharp. Now let's get into the 1 hour chart. So once we break it here to the downside, then we should drop to 57 cents, and then we should drop to 54 cents, and so on, yeah. So we have to identify this even more in the future, but so far the Bitcoin dominance looks very interesting to me. I can still imagine, since I expect a small pullback, we have huge fair value gaps, that the Bitcoin dominance is also getting a small pullback, but afterwards hopefully we see the breakout to the downside. Then we can be happy about a small altcoin rally in the crypto market. So, biggest altcoin, Ethereum. So basically, it looked good. It looked pretty good. The only thing which I don't like is we had here two green trend lines on the chart. The first one I was not able to get into a trade once we broke the $3,980 to the upside. I wanted to see, maybe we are going to see it, something like this, then the retest, then I can be in a long position right here or increase my position size for this push right here. I still have some good news. The good news is, for myself, I was in an Ethereum long trade because I saw a bullish pennant, this one right here. And we have also drew it a day before, like not the pennant itself, but this price movement, that we should see something like this. For sure, this double bottom pattern, it worked as well, because we broke it here to the upside, but this was actually one candle. We got perfectly into the target, was not tradable, but I have identified a bullish pennant. This bullish pennant, I went into a long position right here. And first target was $3,850 right here. There I also closed my long position because we had so many fair value gaps down below here. And I was waiting for a retest to those highs right here. This didn't happen. So the whole push from here to here, I was not in a long position. It can happen. It can happen, and it's not a big deal. It was still a profitable day, and we will look for new entries. I still think that we are going to see a pullback. We have a huge bearish divergence on the chart where we have lower highs in the RSI and higher highs in the RSI. We also went into our targets. This bullish pennant, first target was here at $3,850. The second target is right here in this area. So basically I can take this chart pattern out of the chart. This one right here with the targets. So, and what now? I basically think, for that we have to zoom out, and now I have to look. I would change the green color from this trend line. I would just make it to, let's say, orange. And this one also to orange. Sorry, not this one. This one right here. So, and if we zoom out, I will remove all the price tags, so we can see it a bit better. And also those chart patterns a bit. Those are old patterns. What did I delete? So, what can we see here? We can see a possible rectangle. This is a box, and if that box breaks to the upside or to the downside, we have targets. And the target here is going to be the $4,600. we have now 2 targets at the same price mark. This is positive. This is very positive because we had our bull flag. This bull flag showed us 4,586 US dollar, and now we have a rectangle which shows us the same target. We also have from the past, but for that we have to go into the 4-hour chart. We had here our inverted head and shoulders formatation, which also broke to the upside. We also got into the target of the length of one shoulder, but we still have the maximum extension on the chart, and this is going to be the 4,400 US dollar. So what I think is, I had here my circle. This circle was actually where I would say this is going to be with a very high chance the top for Ethereum. I will move it now to the upside. So I think everything between 4,400 US dollar to 4,586 US dollar, so let's round it up to 4,600 US dollar, it's going to be interesting there. I think Ethereum is going to get there, even though over the weekend I want even to see a pullback within, for example, a falling wedge. This pullback is going to play off the bearish divergence in the chart. So we have afterwards eliminated that bearish divergence on the chart, and then we have also, if we get a cool down, we have so much space to the upside again, and this can be this push. You can see it if we zoom in into the chart. We were down here, we had space to the upside in the RSI. This was already an 11% push. Afterwards we got a correction in the RSI. So afterwards we got this correction and we got this push. This was probably another 15%, yes, around about 15%. And if we see the same cool down in the RSI, and let's just assume we get to those levels right here, 15%, even up to 20%, we still have space to the upside. But I want to see over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, a cool down in the RSI, a cool down in the chart. We have so many fair value gaps lower than us. We made huge gains in a very short time. We should see a correction, and afterwards, if we get new chart patterns on the chart, then we can also trade them. So that's what we want to see. So let's move on to XRP. So for XRP, we have set small inverted head and shoulders formatation. It broke to the upside, got to its target. I can take this one not out of the chart, I will just steal it, and we will get it to the maximum extension now. So the maximum extension is going to be the $3.50 for XRP. What we have also said is that once we break those certain price areas to the upside, then we should see the $3.36 down to $3.31. So we had several targets there. Pretty good. Now I want to see the pullback. Why that? Because let me delay the old inverted head and shoulders formatation. This one worked. We have maybe a bigger one. And I have drew this once we were, I think we were somewhere here. And I've already drew this one here, that I expect a left shoulder. This was then the head, and a right shoulder. Is it possible? So let me delete this one here out of the chart. Oh no, let's just keep it. So is it possible that this was already here, the left shoulder? Might be, but I don't think that. Yeah, we are in a very high level with Ethereum. I expect there a correction. So if Ethereum is going to get a correction, XRP is also going to get one. You can also see that the left shoulder is low at this level right here. We don't have to get there. But what I would see very with a higher probability is retesting those tops from your left, price mark, $3.08. Retesting that is kinda good in my opinion, because we would also close then the fair value gap. We would develop the low of the left shoulder, and from here we can even see support and can break to the upside. This is what I want to see. It worked with the smaller inverted head and shoulders formatation. So why shouldn't it work with the bigger one? And if the bigger one breaks to the upside, here are the targets. $3.75. So basically, and I think this one here, I don't know why it's red. But anyway, let's make it green. And the maximum extension would be the $4 for XRP. Also keep in mind we had a falling wedge, which broke also here to the upside, got its retest, target also ongoing, $3.65. Everything looks bullish. It doesn't mean that we have to break to the upside right now and get a nice push within a few hours and then we are in our target areas. Shouldn't happen. On the weekend I expect maybe a pullback like this within the falling wedge or bull flag, and then the breakout, and then we can be happy. And I'm talking about a bull flag, like for example like this. This is just a smaller one, but where we get a consolidation within the bull flag, and then we break out. And then you can see what kind of massive push we got. Because this bull flag was a breakout, retest, follow through, and this follow through broke the other chart pattern to the upside. And it's going to be a reaction. Yeah, it's like one chart pattern breaks to the upside, and this is going to be the breakout of the next chart pattern, and this is going to be the breakout of the next chart pattern, and then something is very bullish. That's why I will keep that on the chart. It looks ugly now, I know, but let's delete this one as well. So everything looks good for me. $3.08. If we lose that price mark, then I would think about maybe getting lower prices, but I actually doubt it at the moment. So Solana is the only coin which wasn't tradable for me at all. Let me delete this one. This one happened. So if we look and we look at the 165 US dollar, where we have said if we break it to the upside, we should see the 169 US dollar. Yes, it happened. But like I said in the beginning of this video, it is not about measuring the targets. Yeah, we had here an inverted head and shoulders formatation. And yes, we broke it to the upside. Yes, the target was 169 US dollar. And yes, we went there. But the difficult part in trading is getting an entry. Where should I enter the trade? We can go into the 1 minute chart and look for a 1 minute candle closes over the 165 US dollar and 18 cents. This is going to be with a very high chance a fake out, and then we are going to sell off in most cases. In this case not, but in most cases. If I want to wait for the candle close, which is more precise, then I have my entry here for the last push into 169 US dollar. No, because we have here a huge fair value gap. So I usually wait for a retest. And I didn't see it here. I wanted to see the 165 US dollar again. Then I would be in for a long trade for Solana. Didn't happen. No long trade for me. In this case, we have seen a breakout, a retest, but I still didn't went into a long position because I was looking for other coins. I will also show you them because I also went into a long position for ONDO, for Dogecoin, for Ethereum, and render. So basically I have to look for the most valuable trades, and there I focused more with my capital. But when I saw this push here, I was thinking like, nah, like maybe should wait a bit longer before getting into a long position because we are going to sell off. And here I was taking a nap. So basically I missed this push, but for Solana, it's not a big deal in my opinion, as Solana is not the most bullish coin at the moment. I don't like the structure at all. So 7% was this. I don't like the structure. I don't see any kind of chart patterns. It looks more corrective to me, but I can't see. This here is not a falling wedge. I can't count this as a falling wedge. What I can count as a falling wedge, but this is also what I don't like because it's far too sharp. It is something like this. So what can I do with those chart patterns? Nothing. So basically I take my fingers out of trades. I would also assume that Solana is in a huge bearish divergence. And yes, we have one. We have lower highs in the RSI, but we have since here higher highs in the RSI. So I can also expect here the cooldown, and maybe this is going to be the cooldown into the 169 US dollar, or the cooldown even into the 165 US dollar. And if this is going to happen, then I think we can get prices up to 185 US dollar for Solana. So with that said, this update was a bit longer because I wanted to show you as many patterns as possible and what can happen. So all in all, I expect a pullback. This pullback should just retest some old levels, should fill the fair value gaps, and should cool down the RSI over the weekend. Afterwards, in the next week, we have to see how the markets are going to open. If we see new chart patterns, which we develop over the weekend, if we break it then to the upside, then next week is also going to be a green week in my opinion. So with that said, we see each other in the Sui, Avalanche, HBAR and Dogecoin update, and that is going to get very interesting, especially Dogecoin. We had many chart patterns, we also delayed it a few ones, and Dogecoin very bullish at the moment.